Do you know what FND or functional neurological disorder is?
No.
No. No.
No, I don't.
Functional neurological disorder, also known as FND, is a medical condition where there is a problem with the functioning of the nervous system and how the brain and body send and or receive signals to one another. Today, I spoke with Catherine, who has FND, to learn about the misunderstood world of this disorder and how it truly affects the day-to-day lives of those diagnosed with it.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I am 37. I live in Bristol in the UK and I have FND. I have had it since January 2020.
In your own words, what exactly is FND, and how would you describe it for people who have never heard of the disorder?
I would describe it as where the neurons in my brain and the nerves in my body talk to each other and they communicate, and there's nothing wrong with either of them, but somehow along the way the messages get misinterpreted or miscommunicated or not understood or ignored. So everything works, there's nothing wrong with me, but my body and mind get confused unpredictably. That means that sometimes I have issues with my speech. I can't speak, so my voice works. There's nothing wrong with my voice and there's nothing wrong with my brain, but somehow between my brain telling my voice to speak, it thinks that I can't. Sometimes I don't speak at all. Sometimes I stammer, sometimes I have a weird kind of whispery voice. That's my main FND symptom that I experience.
Is FND common?
I think it's probably more common than people realise, and I think a lot of the population experience functional symptoms, but maybe that they don't know that it's a disorder, or maybe it only happens once or twice rather than a daily occurrence. I think it's rare enough that the medical profession don't understand it. Yeah. I really don't know how common it is.
What symptoms do you experience with FND?
Okay, so I spoke about my symptoms. Speech, that's the big one. And then I also had episodes of sudden limb weakness. So my legs would give way, so I'd suddenly collapse to the floor. Or my arm would be really weak, I couldn't hold anything, or one of my legs might be weak and I couldn't walk properly. I also get body tics, sort of like a sort of judder like this, or arm tremors, usually my right arm tremors, or my legs might shake. Dystonia, so sometimes my hand gets like stuck in a sort of claw shape, and then sometimes I get I call them dissociative episodes. It's where I sort of glaze over and I know what's going on around me, but I've just sort of completely zoned out from it and I can't communicate, I can't talk. It's just I can sort of hear what's going on, I'm vaguely aware of what's going on, but sort of just not really with it, I guess I'd call it. And also I've had seizures where I fall to the floor and my whole body's shaking and my arms are going. I mean, almost looks a little bit like a panic attack, but it's not, because I'm not panicked when I have them. Yeah, sort of whole body tremble. Oh, pins and needles. I get pins and needles all the time. So at the moment, usually in the lower half of my body, at the moment, my toes and my calf muscles are quite pins and needly. That comes and goes, but I get it anywhere in my body. I've had pins and needles on my tongue. That's really weird. Yeah, pretty much it. So I think essentially any nerve or any neuron could get confused. So I know people with FND that have got bowel issues because they think that the bladder and brain aren't communicating properly. That's not happened to me, but I guess it could do because I've got FND. So any part of my nervous system could go, hold on a minute, we're not listening, or we don't understand, and not work.
What were your experiences with receiving a diagnosis for FND? Was it a simple or a difficult process? And why do you think this is?
So I was diagnosed when I was taken into hospital because I couldn't move, and I went into A&E and they thought it was a stroke and they did the scans which were clear, and then I ended up on a neuro ward overnight. And by the morning, my legs were not paralysed but were really weak, and they did the Hoover test on them, which is a test where I don't really know how it works, but they make you move one leg while holding down another one or something and push against it, and your brain sort of flips and the strength's there. So it's a positive sign. It's not a diagnosis of exclusion. Like, it's an actual sign going, yes, there's nothing wrong, it does work, just your brain's neuroconnections have got a little bit confused. So they told me straight away, and I'm really, really, really lucky that I was diagnosed in a hospital in a city that has got an FND inpatient unit as part of it. So the staff there are really aware of it and could tell me really easily, in simple terms, exactly what was going on, exactly what was happening. And I think that has been a massive, massive, massive help to me accepting and coming to terms with my condition. I was still sent away with leaflets and a website to look at, but I felt really supported, and that they really tried to explain to me what was happening. And then later on, I did actually spend 3 weeks on the inpatient unit after I'd gone home, discharged from the main hospital. So I think that sort of understanding straight away really helped.
What was life like before FND, and how has it changed after the diagnosis?
Okay, so how's my life changed? Yeah, pretty significantly. I think pre-FND, I lived very much in my head. I was very much a thinking person, would do stuff and not really listen to my body or what it was telling me. And I think FND has now made me really, really, really aware of my body and how tired I am and what I'm capable of. Putting in place boundaries for looking after myself and rest and being really aware of what's going on, the bigger picture. I think before FND, I was just on the treadmill of life with kids and stress and work, and it got to the point where I just couldn't do it anymore. And so it's been a massive shift and a massive upheaval in what I'm capable of, and I feel quite a lot of grief about that and sadness that I can't provide my kids with an amazing childhood like other parents can, but like, that's okay. Like, I'm doing the best I can with what I've got. Yeah, so definitely my pace of life has completely slowed down. It's been difficult, though. It's been really difficult accepting that.
What are your opinions on the current research that stands about the disorder, and how do you think this affects the diagnosis process?
Yeah, I think it's massively under-researched. I think because it can't be fixed, because there's no drug that you can get a drug company to pay for, because there's no money to be made, it's almost as though the medical community can't cope, can't deal with it. I think the NHS is very great at reactive care for fixing bodies, but I think FND is so much more nuanced than that, and so much more not understood, and it's not being understood because of the economics of it, and that leaves us in a really difficult position, I suppose, that we're left to kind of crack on with it. That's it, make the best of your life you can. And because it's under-researched, people don't know about it, the public don't know about it, even the medical community don't know about it. I mean, I'm really lucky that where I was, the medical community did know about it, and I was diagnosed really easily, but I know other people really struggle for diagnosis, and even then it comes with a lot of stigma that because it's not understood why everything's working, but then it doesn't, because that's not understood, there's almost like a sense of blame, or not shame, like a blame put on the patient that they can do it, so just do it. And I don't think FND, it doesn't work like that, but a lot of medical professionals do. So this isn't a real seizure, it's not an epileptic seizure, stop having the seizure. You can't talk, well, you can talk, your brain works, your voice is working, talk. It doesn't work like that. I've tried to make myself talk, you can't talk. And so that then makes you feel worse, which then makes your FND symptoms worse, which perpetuates the cycle of, here's a human asking for help here, and you're being told, no, not only are we not going to give you help, it's your fault. And that's a really, really difficult place to be. And I'm so grateful that I haven't really experienced it, although not to my face. I don't know what friends think of me or family. That's their own opinion. Yeah, and I really, really think that it does need to be made aware of in the general public and wider community and medical community, because I hadn't heard of it. at all before it happened to me. My friend said that, like, on a couple of occasions she had these weird collapsing attacks when nothing happened. Like, she didn't know why, she just suddenly collapsed, but she never did anything about it, and it only happened twice, so she thought nothing of it. And I'm like, well, I have collapsing attacks. So, like, she's experienced functional symptoms, but she didn't know. So if there was more research in the medical community know, like, maybe people's lives that have ongoing functional symptoms, FND, that live with it, maybe their lives would just be a whole lot easier, and they'd feel a lot more understood, a lot more accepted, a lot less judged. My final message to anyone that comes across someone with FND is just be entirely compassionate to the person that has got this, because as well as the functional symptoms that happen and occur, even when they're not occurring, there is a lot of stuff going on underneath the surface. Their history of how they've been diagnosed, or what else is going on for them, or just please don't judge on the days that I'm speaking and then tomorrow I'm stammering or can't talk at all, or just some compassion would be nice, and no judgment. And yeah, humans are really weird, complex beings, and it would be great if we could understand each other a little bit more.